Well, coming up on Wednesday next week, the 14th at 1:30, the Concerned Citizens will be having an event at, I guess it's called the Performing Arts Center now, but Clubhouse 3 Auditorium. And once again, you are having the Dean of the UCI Law School, the founding dean, Erwin Chemerinsky. Great guy. I interviewed him last week. We showed that segment a couple days ago. And this is his 9th time that he's going to...
It's becoming, I call it annual, his 9th annual.
That's amazing.
In Laguna Woods, yes.
Yeah. And it's going to be a wonderful talk. Lots of different things. One of the things he seems to, this kind of annual talk, among other things, but he hits on is kind of what's happened in the Supreme Court over the last year or so, and what's to be maybe expected going forward, right? That's kind of the theme, among other things as well.
Yes, and his focus in the past has been on the just finished term.
Right.
Because all the big cases come out in late June, he talks about them.
Right.
And then he looks ahead a little bit. But this is unusual this year because of the vacancy.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So
in the past, there has not been an actual vacancy when he's spoken.
Oh, really? Wow.
Although in the presidential years of 08 and 12, he did talk about the likely impact of the election
that's right.
on the appointment of justices going forward and how the balance on the court worked.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting conversation. He has a very good background, of course, as we just talked about. He was the founding dean. I think that's been about 9-10 years, am I right, at UCI? Something about 9 years?
08 was when he came back to Southern California from Duke Law School and took that year to enroll a stellar faculty, and then the students, I think, started in the fall of 09.
Yeah, and it's been quite successful. As we found out, all the clerk appointments and the fact that a lot of his students, when they get to a certain point, they go out in the community and help out with quite often the pro bono stuff or going up and looking at different court cases and all kinds of things, right? I mean, they're out there, and part of their, I guess, program, part of their training, and almost as a way to get them prepared. And a lot of them gone on to really be successful.
So when he came back here in 08, I had already been familiar with him for, maybe 20 years or so from Los Angeles as a leading professor of constitutional law at USC, and then chairman of the Los Angeles Charter Commission, and enormous public service. So it was a no-brainer to invite him to come and talk in Laguna Woods. And I think he found the audience was a wonderful audience to talk to, very informed, good questions. They loved him. So this has been a kind of a love fest that's grown from year to year, and his audience has gotten bigger each year. In the election years of 08 and 12, I encouraged him to talk more about the impact of the election, and specifically the effect on ordinary people's lives of what the Supreme Court does.
Right. And one of the things that we touched on when I interviewed him was the fact that there were certain cases that were, I guess for lack of a better term, a stalemate, meaning 4 and 4, because there's 8 justices right now. And as he said, no matter which way you want them to go, it's probably better off than just having them sit there and go back, or kind of go back. It could take years to get it back to that point again, right?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Last term, when there were 4 very conflicting positions, that was the vote. The rule is that's called affirmed by an equally divided court. That just automatically affirms what the Court of Appeal did below, or the state court. But in a couple of cases, they kind of came together in a very mushy group of 8 and decided the case. One amazing case, it was Zubik versus Burwell, which was an Obamacare case. They sent it back, and the issue was whether the Little Sisters of the Poor and other religious groups had to fill out the form regarding contraception. So their decision was, Well, we'll send this back, and I'm sure you guys can work it out. I mean, that's almost literally what they did.
Yeah.
And then the affirmative action University of Texas case, they also came to a very mushy kind of a decision. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But going forward, it ain't going to be no mushy decisions.
Yeah.
When that seat is filled.
Right.
Ultimately, so that's what the dean is
Yeah.
going to make as his primary focus of his talk, September 14th, next Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important, is looking ahead, and his prognostication. I said acts of prognostication will occur.
Yeah. Now, during his time at next meeting on Wednesday, people can ask questions as well. Do you welcome questions for him? I know he he gives an overall view and sort of a speech or a talk, but is there a good interaction that goes on as well?
Oh, that's an amazing and interesting part of his talks.
Okay.
Every year. He always talks, I think the length of a law school class period is 50 minutes or 52 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
A little bell goes off in his head at 52 minutes. And
He's used to
he
it.
opens up to Q&A for at least half an hour, 35 minutes. And that's when some very interesting things come up.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time for, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, so to speak, or your views on things, it's fun to go there. And you may just have things you want to ask, and maybe different decisions, or what happens if this happens, and so on. And it's a good way to go back and forth and really get a conversation going.
It is. Ken, related to that, let me just tell you that last night I was at the film club, which I joined. We saw a great film. But I was passing out flyers. I was outside the building, so I was, passing out these flyers for Erwin Chemerinsky, and I got this very interesting read on the audience. I spoke briefly to about 200 people, and roughly half of them had been to a Chemerinsky a talk before and just will not miss it. Made it very clear that this was a big event.
Yes.
I talked about it as their annual Chemerinsky fix.
Yeah.
And most of the others were very receptive and interested in seeing what was there. What was a little bit sad, frankly, was that maybe 10 people, about 5%, said they read Chemerinsky's column every Thursday in the OC Register, and because they disagreed with his views, his columns on constitutional law, since they disagreed with his views, they wouldn't go hear him. So this is like, don't tell me anything that I don't want to hear.
Right.
And that's a little bit, and it kind of reflects the polarization of politics.
Right, that's true.
Now, but what's important and interesting is that the people who have come to hear him just will not miss him and invite their friends, and that's why the audience has grown every year.
Yeah, and I can say he's a very friendly, personable individual. I mean, he really is. And I enjoyed talking with him and interviewing with him. He's very receptive towards people. So, I think it'd be very interesting to go. And as I said, whatever your views are, the point is you can ask him, you can talk to him, you can hear what he has to say, and he's a great guy.
What's amazing to me, frankly, is that he can talk at the very same time to lawyers who are very familiar with these cases, who think he's brilliant and incisive and frank, and also at the same time be very clear to laypersons, lay folks, who say he's just very easy to understand. He's very clear, tells the story of each case very briefly, and he's just very warm. He's funny. He's very frank. So it's very enjoyable. It's fun also.
Definitely. So this is next Wednesday, September 14th at 1:30. Doors open at 12:45 over at the Performing Arts Center, Clubhouse 3 Auditorium, whatever you'd like to call it. You are welcome to go. You do not have to be with the Concerned Citizens Club. It's open to everyone, right?
It is. We're asking a $5 donation from non-members of Concerned Citizens.
Okay.
Which is a very low price for what you get for that amount of money, especially when Erwin brings his crystal ball and prognosticates the future.
It'll be worth it. Jonathan, good to see you. All right, we will be right back.